Hello again from Fired Up. I'm your host for the show, Bob Irwin, broadcasting from Rigel Studios here in Las Vegas, Nevada. This show is about guns, related self-defense issues, and related political issues. Fired Up is on our website, firedupwithbobirwin.com, and at the American Guns and Glory Network, on YouTube, and numerous other media. A new show is posted every Thursday at 5 p.m. Pacific Time. The audio feed is rebroadcast for radio listeners Saturdays at noon on the Nevada Talk Network. You can check out stations in your area by going to KELY1230.com for a station in your area. It's about 18 stations all around Nevada at the present time. Questions or comments can be sent to email at bob@firedupmail.com. Again, that's bob@firedupmail.com, or leave a message on my office recorder. That is area code 702-257-1060. Repeating that, it's 702-257-1060. If you leave contact information, I'll respond by email, text, or telephone. Questions directed to our guests, of course, will be forwarded. There are several hundred defensive uses of firearms every week in the United States, rarely truthfully covered by any mainstream media. We always present a few for our listeners' education. Most are good shootings that we cover. Some are questionable, sometimes they're just wrong, but they're all educational for firearms owners. Stories are often paraphrased for clarity by translation by me from police jargon, lawyer speak, and regional accents into more common standard English. The incidents are always as reported, except the names are omitted. My guest today is Chris Eifelt of CCS Gunsmithing here in Las Vegas. A longtime guy. Well, Chris, a bit of your background, if you would.
Well, I was lucky enough to grow up in the firearms industry. My dad was a big firearms collector, and one of his best friends was a master gunsmith. So when everybody else my age was hauling groceries out of the grocery store and stuff, I was working with a gunsmith, which meant that I was picking things up off the floor that he dropped and asking him what they were. So I've been doing this pretty much all my life. My wife and I started CCS Gunsmithing about 27 years ago. And we've been here in Las Vegas for a little over 30 years now. So it's we've seen a lot of different things here in Vegas.
This first story is a little different than I normally run. Having listened to 3 hours of this week's Democrat debate, with a constant theme on it, avoiding the Second Amendment, I have a few comments. As the Democrat presidential frontrunner, Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren, has announced her plans to reduce gun deaths by 80% through executive action and legislation. Her opinions were compiled from the candidate debates on CNN, NPR interviews, her websites, and Warren's media comments at various political events. Went through a lot of stuff, and there's a compilation here of what the Democratic frontrunner wants to do with your guns and your gun rights. She says the first step as the newly elected President of the United States, well, that's a scary sentence, is immediate administrative action. Those actions requiring background checks on all firearms transfers, investigating the NRA, and revoking licenses of gun dealers who break the law. I'm not sure, Chris, that we don't already do that, revoke?
We're supposed to. That's what we're supposed to do. Obviously, she hasn't gotten the memo on that.
I can think of half a dozen over the last 7 or 8 years that I've done stories on that we're doing stuff off the books and this and that, and the ATF jerked their license, and they're gone, and in some cases in jail.
Yep.
We already have that plan, Ms. Warren. She also is reiterating her desire to eliminate the legislative filibuster to allow passing gun legislation. To quote her, we've got to have a leader who's willing to stand up to the gun lobby and say no more and take away one of their principal tools, which is the filibuster. I don't want to get into a long dissertation on filibusters, but they have been used for years in Congress to delay actions while people are doing this. Not really fond of it, but it's been used several times to good effect for one side or the other. But Warren is going way beyond the anti-gun left's stricter background checks and bans on what she calls assault weapons. However, she may define what an assault weapon is. We've had the definitions of anything that'll hold a detachable magazine, capable of holding a magazine that holds more than 7 or 10 rounds, or
bayonet,
or have a bayonet lug, or a
pistol
flashlight,
grip,
or whatever. However she defines them, we'll find that out when she makes her presidential decree. And she's not forgetting about those evil standard capacity magazines. They will need to be inventoried and registered with the government also. There was quite a lot of detail on the experience in California that you require people to register magazines,
yeah,
and then the government has a list of who owns magazines,
yep,
and then when they come back and check to see if you still have all the ones you're supposed to have, then you distributed a magazine that you weren't, or you've got more than you were allowed to have, and so that becomes a criminal offense.
How are they going to know which magazines you had to begin with? Are they going to start serial numbering them also?
Well, that's the registration. You have to have the magazines, and where this has been in effect, they go through and mark them by engraving or indelible ink or some such thing, that with a serial number or something to indicate they belong to you. And so if that magazine shows up somewhere else, you're guilty of entering it into commerce. And anyway, so you have to register your magazines with the government. Where they've done that, they've actually done that. You have to take it to a gunsmith and have it permanently modified so it won't work. Or, there was some law that passed in New Jersey, and after 3 months, they had actually zero compliance with that. People were supposed to turn them in.
Yeah.
Anyway, her announced agenda also creates a federal gun licensing system. This is for all firearms, similar to what we do with NFA, machine guns and things now. Limits the number of firearms anyone can buy, raises the minimum age to 21 for purchasing a gun, and probably the big one here, which will be the end-all to end-all. You don't have to worry about the little stuff if she gets this one through. Holding firearm manufacturers liable for their products' misuse, including making firearms business executives personally liable.
Well, that just is going to shut down everybody.
It'll end.
Yeah.
But there's more. I collected this from a lot of places. I've been working on this particular 20-minute story for about 3 days, and it's amazing what she has come up with. But now, the president or the CEO of a firearm manufacturing business, if his product is misused, he's the one that put it into commerce, so he can be held personally liable for anything that's done with that gun. Maybe they're going to do that with gunsmiths that repair them too.
Oh, I'm sure. I have that itchy spot between my shoulder blades from that target that's stuck on me.
It's, the industry is not going to be what we know it to be. Now, here we go with another, if there could be more added to this. She advocates raising excise taxes on manufacturing to 30% on guns and 500% on ammunition. Excise taxes, when you manufacture guns right now, depending whether it's a handgun or a long gun, you pay either a 11% excise tax to the government for manufacturing that gun, or 10%. And ammunition, you pay, I think it's 10% now. Yeah, 10% for making ammunition, which is was put on some years ago to take care of ATF's costs of regulation and keeping track of this and that and the other thing. A lot of manufactured products have excise tax on them, and we're pretty used to that. But this increase means that what she added to this increase, we're going to have 500%. So the ammunition tax is going to be 50% of the value of the ammunition. The gun tax is going to be 30% of the value of the guns. And additionally, her plans call for getting that money and using it, $100 million annual investment into anti-violence research. So we will have government agencies or private people she plans to hire, I don't know, the Gabby Giffords Fund for America or whatever it is, to be paid to do research in how many gun deaths there were. You notice we separate here from firearms to gun deaths. Firearms deaths, when they talk about gun deaths, they're talking about all deaths from firearms, which is a totally different number. Recognizing that approximately two-thirds of the guns that are used in a death are suicides.
Yep.
And her theory is that if people don't have guns to commit suicide with, they will not commit suicide.
Wishful thinking.
Yeah, we've got data from all over the world. Japan has virtually no guns and one of the highest suicide rates in the world.
Absolutely.
And they stick themselves with swords or hang from trees or jump off of buildings or whatever. Not to be flippant about anybody committing suicide. There's obviously some mental issues there that need to be addressed. But guns don't cause suicides any more than guns cause armed robberies.
It's whoever's holding it. That's the whole thing.
Yeah, I've argued numerous cases in court about the gun. The trigger didn't pull itself, and the terminology is a problem when you watch the left-wing news, but it is just really difficult to put their data into anything like common sense. We'll go a little farther. We're going to show you a brief word from some of our associates next, and we'll be right back. Don't go away. Freestyle Martial Arts, located at 5693 South Jones, right at the corner of Russell Road. My friend Goker runs that studio. They train UFC fighters. They have classes for children, adults, old folks like me. You can reach them at 702-551-9009. That's 702-551-9009. CCS Gunsmithing is run by my good friend Chris Eifelt. He runs the NRA, Friends of the NRA dinners. He's on Rainbow and Sahara. You can reach him, a fine gunsmith, at 702-365-1732. That's 702-365-1732. Next is attorney Jerry Creed. Jerry, the slide will tell you that he does estate planning and all that, which he does. He's here because he also does firearms trusts, particularly Class 3 trusts. If you own a lot of guns or any Class 3 firearms that you wish to pass on to your heirs, you need to talk to Jerry to make sure your will or your trust is up to date. It changes by the minute. He's at 702-806-7777. That's 702-806-7777. This second story, in order to get one self-defense story in, comes to us from the San Diego Union Tribune. A reporter named Christina Davis reported October 5th in Carlsbad, California, a burglary occurred around 12:30 a.m., like 1 o'clock in the morning, on Paseo Frontera. The suspect entered the house and touched the male resident while he slept. The victim woke up to find the intruder in his bedroom, and the burglar then fled. Could make a comment here about, we all have this vision of we wake up when the burglar's in the doorway, get our gun from under the bed and shoot him. You don't wake up then, you wake up when he's right on top of you. But anyway, that's for another show. The police got another report of a break-in at 1:12 in the morning on Unicornio Street. The residents awoke to find the suspect inside, confronted him, and the intruder fled. Officers were already in the neighborhood investigating the other burglary reports, and they rushed to an Exana Way home on hearing of a gunshot. This is about as fast a police response you're ever going to get. They rushed to the house because they're clear enough to hear the resident of the home shooting at the burglar. The third home resident saw a suspect trying to enter. The resident confronted the burglar through a window, and as is his pattern, the suspect fled. In this case, however, the resident stepped outside and fired a warning shot into the air. Oops. Officers arrived in moments, as they were near enough to hear the shot. I mentioned that. Found the 26-year-old suspect hiding behind a nearby vehicle. He was arrested on charges of burglary, attempted burglary, sexual battery, methamphetamine possession, there's a surprise, and being under the influence of drugs. Police are encouraging neighbors to check their security cameras for footage of the suspect. In this case, there was no danger presented to the shooter. The warning shot is likely not legal in many jurisdictions. Responding officers will advise a resident, in most jurisdictions, truthfully, the responding officers will advise a resident not to do it again, and because no one was hurt, just basically walk away and not mention it in their reports. But this is California. He may be in a world of hurt here for launching around. What goes up must come down type of thing.
Yep.
These cases are really tough. Don't fire warning shots except as an I'm one of the guys who will never say never, never, never fire a warning shot. At times they're appropriate, and you got to know where the bullet's going to land. You fire into the dirt that you know will absorb it or something. We'll get into that at another time, but this guy is very likely toast in California where he is. We're going to have another short break here for a brief word from some of our friends and associates. Don't go away. Attorney Don Green, who is a regular on this show, as most of you know, specializes in gun litigation, firearms law, firearms license denials, things like that, and defense in firearms accusation cases. You can reach Don at 702-409-8239. That's his cell phone, 24 hours, 702-409-8239. That's Don Green, attorney at law. And Maggie Mordaunt. Maggie, you can find her to start with by just searching CCW Maggie, M-A-G-G-I-E. Maggie is the firearms instructor extraordinaire. She teaches all sorts of classes. She trains instructors. She teaches at the county range here in Clark County. Great instructor, an NRA certified everything. I've known her forever and ever. You can reach her at 702-375-5900. That's 702-375-5900. And Ricardo's, my favorite watering hole. They're located at Flamingo and Decatur here in Las Vegas, Nevada. The owner's name is Bob, so tell Bob sent you. You can reach them at 702-227-9100. That's 702-227-9100. They have banquet facilities and electronic stuff available for clubs and meetings and so forth, and you will love the food. Battlefield Vegas, the new home for being associated with Fired Up, is located directly behind Circus Circus right off the Las Vegas Strip. It is the most amazing place you will ever find for firearms to shoot in their range. You can shoot a minigun in there. They have all sorts of high-powered machine guns and so forth. At their outdoor facility, they rent tanks. You can actually crush a car with a tank. I couldn't explain this place in the 30 seconds I've given myself here. You must try going by Battlefield Vegas. You will find them at battlefieldvegas.com. And we are back. I have to mention on this show that I just saw the news that a week ago now, Alexei Leonov passed away. He was a Soviet cosmonaut who became the first human to walk in space 54 years ago, who nearly didn't make it back into his space capsule. He was scheduled to be the first man on the moon, but we beat the Russians there. He passed away in Moscow at age 85. The reason I bring it up, I met General Leonov a few years ago when he was here in Vegas for a charity auction. His entourage brought him to the gun store, and we were able to talk firearms for a while. It turns out he has a huge gun collection. He's a big shooter and collector. One of his statements, we were talking about Russian guns, and he says a Makarov is a piece of crap. And yeah, he liked the Tokarev pistols, and I have to agree. He always had Tokarevs and liked them and so forth. Anyway, the point of the story is, after he left, he was here for this charity auction, and they were auctioning off color prints that are hand autographed by him of the Earth viewed from outer space. After he left, one of his entourage came back in a few days later and handed me this 3-foot by 2-foot package, which turned out to be a signed print of this spacewalk, of this view of Earth from space, a watercolor. And I said, well, that's really very nice. And his keeper there told me that it really is nice. They were selling for $5,000 each at the auction. There's only 100 of them ever made. And it came up when we were talking guns. I gave him a T-shirt from the gun store. We were selling the camouflage pattern, Desert Camo at the time. It had just come out. And he looked at it and he said, well, could I have the green one instead, which was an older jungle camouflage we used. He says, I live in Siberia, and everything is green. And when he passed away, he was living in Siberia also. Interesting gentleman, and obviously he will be in the history books forever and ever. Those of you who came by the store back in those days, I had a whole wall full of celebrity pictures of different people who had been in the store. And they're all actors and tap dancers and so forth, who will be forgotten in 100 years, and General Leonov will be remembered forever. Interesting gentleman.
Wasn't he also a fighter pilot ace in the Second World War?
He was an ace fighter pilot. All the cosmonauts were all military guys, as opposed to most of our astronauts being civilians. But he, just an amazing individual. When he was scheduled to be the first man on the moon, it was essentially a suicide mission. They didn't believe they could get him back off, and probably wouldn't have. But we saved his life by Neil Armstrong landing first. I want to mention also this weekend is the Crossroads of the West gun show. It's at the World Market Center in downtown Las Vegas, right near the Ruvo Brain Center, if you know where that is. Going downtown, Crossroads is in that pavilion center again, the big tents outside. This will be a really interesting gun show because it's one of the last ones before some serious regulations hit in California and perhaps Nevada, because Governor Sisolak has got a whole slate of things that you could almost match to what we talked earlier about Elizabeth Warren wanting. He's on board with most all of that. And we expect the gun shows to be severely cramped with new regulations. Anyway, we'll be at Crossroads this weekend. I do appreciate your tuning in to us. Please check out our recent shows at firedupwithboberwin.com. It contains several dozen recent episodes. Please patronize our friends that you saw in the little commercial things. Go there, and when you're there, mention Bob sent you, and you'll have a ball. These are all good businesses and all conservatively owned. We'll be back next Thursday on our website, firedupwithboberwin.com, and on YouTube at the American Guns and Glory Network. My guest next week will be Attorney Donald Green. Again, we've got lots of interesting cases set up for him to go over. When watching any media, please just click on subscribe, and the new shows will automatically be sent to your computer or phone every Thursday just after 5 p.m. Please forward these broadcasts to your friends. And by the way, our logo merchandise, hats and shirts and books, are now available at Battlefield Vegas. They're located just behind Circus Circus on the Strip. And if you go in there, that place is so amazing. It's what the gun store would have been if I'd had the sense to do it. Remember, the audio portion is broadcast on the Nevada Talk Network Saturdays at noon. You can, again, check out their stations at KELY1230.com. Thank you for supporting Fired Up. Chris, thank you again for being here.
Thank you for inviting me.
All right. See you at the gun show.